Okay, if you're an early stage founder, especially in a really complex field like AI or deep tech, you know the question. It's the one that keeps you up at night. How in the world do I get funding when I don't have revenue or users or any of those classic traction metrics? It's a huge fear, but what if I told you you're probably looking at the wrong dashboard entirely?
Yeah, you heard that right. This idea that you're totally unfundable without these big, flashy numbers, it's one of the biggest myths in early-stage venture capital. The key isn't to wait for some magical moment of traction. It's to understand what investors are really looking for before those hockey stick growth charts even exist.
And this is the core idea we're going to unpack. It's not about the volume of your metrics. It's all about the clarity of your signals. These are those subtle but incredibly powerful indicators that you're on the right path, you're learning like crazy, and you're building something that can actually last. So let's dig into what that really means.
All right, so let's start by shifting our mindset a bit. We're going to explore exactly why, for founders like you, the clarity of the story you're telling is so much more important than the sheer volume of data you have.
Okay, this slide really breaks it down. Over on the left, you've got your classic vanity metrics. I mean, sure, 1,000 new social followers feels good, but for a deep tech startup, what does it really say about your business? Not much. But on the right, you have signal metrics. Now, these are the ones that matter. They're substantive, they show real progress, real depth, and a real understanding of the problem you're trying to solve.
And this, right here, nails the biggest risk of using those vanity metrics. When you present a bunch of numbers that don't actually connect to your core story, all you do is create confusion. And a confused investor? A confused investor is an investor who is going to pass every single time. Clarity is your best friend here. So, if we're kicking vanity metrics to the curb, what's left? Let's break down the 3 essential signals that are going to form the foundation of a killer pre-revenue pitch. Think of this as your toolkit for building an investor's belief in you.
All right, the 3 signals are insight, velocity, and moat. Super simple. Each one tells a different, crucial part of your story and proves a different aspect of your startup's potential. Let's break them down, starting with insight.
First up, insight. This isn't about you guessing what the market wants. It's about proof that you've been learning. An investor wants to see that you've done the hard, unglamorous work of understanding your customer. Being able to say that you've had deep, meaningful conversations with 30 experts in your exact target market, that is pure gold. It proves you're not just building what's cool, you're building what's needed. The second signal is velocity. And listen, this isn't just about raw speed, it's about learning velocity. How quickly can your team take in new information, customer feedback, test results, and turn it into a better product? Showing that you went from an idea to a working prototype in just 6 weeks shows that your team can execute, learn, and move with focus. That's way more powerful than a handful of early users. And the third signal is your moat. You know, what makes your startup hard to copy? An investor is always thinking about the long game. So metrics here could be something like creating a unique data set that no one else has access to, or filing a key patent. This signal tells an investor that you're not just a clever project, you're building a real company with staying power. Okay, so you figured out your signals for insight, velocity, and moat. But here's the thing, the numbers themselves are only half the battle. The really critical part is how you frame them. Because raw data without a narrative is basically meaningless.
Take this number, 10. What does that even mean? 10 users? 10 signups? On its own, it feels pretty weak, right? You might even be tempted to just hide it in your deck. But watch what happens when we add a little context.
Bam! Suddenly that little number is maybe the most powerful metric you have. Because these aren't just 10 random people, they're 10 highly respected engineers from the exact labs you want as customers. That context proves you're solving a huge problem for exactly the right people. This is the art of framing your data. So how do you do it? Well, your metric should always be answering 2 fundamental investor questions. For why now? You can use signals like a waitlist that filled up in 24 hours to show the market is screaming for a solution. For why us, you can use a performance metric, like showing your tool cut a critical process time by 60%, to prove your solution is the one. See? These aren't traction metrics, they are belief builders. An idea is one thing, but you know what investors really bet on? Teams that can execute. They are looking for signals that you are consistently making progress, even when things get tough. Let's look at how to prove that. A timeline like this is such a fantastic way to visualize your execution. It shows you set a clear goal, you went out and talked to customers, you actually shipped updates based on what you learned, and you hit your target. This shows focus, discipline, and follow-through. It tells an investor, this team doesn't just talk, they ship, they learn, they build.
But what if your data isn't perfect? What if a test completely fails? Well, here's the secret. Smart founders don't hide their weak signals. They frame them as learning opportunities. Being able to say, look, this didn't work, here's why we think it failed, and here's our new plan, shows incredible self-awareness and resilience. And those are two traits every investor is dying to find.
Okay, let's bring it all home. The biggest thing I want you to take away from all this should be a feeling of empowerment. Because honestly, most technical founders are already sitting on these powerful signals. You're just waiting for someone to give you permission to call them traction.
So here's the bottom line. Stop waiting. Your job right now is to dig into your own work and find the signals of insight, velocity, and moat. Package them into a clear story that builds an investor's belief. And then you have to present that story with the conviction it deserves. Your metrics don't need to be loud, they just need to be true.
And that's the question I want to leave you with. Seriously, take a look at the work you've done over the last few months. Look at the problems you've solved, the things you've learned, and the unique assets you've built along the way. What is the powerful, fundable story that your signals are already telling?